You open your eyes to see a familiar sight, the campfire by which you laid your head to rest. But everything seems different, almost spectral, void of colour. A man appears from nowhere, sat in front of the campfire, and he motions towards you.
Come, child, sit with me. You must hear what I have to say.
This was the beginning of a dream sequence that I shared with a player in my D&D campaign. I used the sequence to introduce the player to a key character in his story, the ancestral guardian that would power his barbarian abilities. Want to catch the rest of the story? Stick around to the end of the video to see how it unfolds. Hey, I'm Daniel, and I'm a dreamer. I used to keep a dream journal, and at one point I regularly had lucid dreams where I could control my dreamscape with my will. Cool, right? But why am I telling you this? Well, dreams and visions can be really powerful tools to use in TTRPGs, and I use them regularly. You can use them to bring in story elements that don't easily fit into the game otherwise, and they're a great storytelling tool to have in your toolbox. Role-playing games aren't like films. For a game to be immersive, you often need to stick to telling a story in the same time and place as your characters. Off-camera exposition and flashbacks are hard to pull off elegantly, and if you try using them, your players might get confused. But dreams and visions make it easy to bring some off-camera exposition into your games, foreshadow events or characters, or even narrate past or future events. When you get the hang of using them, they can add so much to a story, and they're really versatile. Okay, so hopefully I've convinced you that dreams and visions are a great addition to your toolbox, but how do you use them effectively? We'll look at this soon, but first let's look at the similarities and differences between dreams and visions. They're very similar, but there are key differences. A character seeing a vision will typically be conscious, and there'll often be an obvious reason that they're having a vision. Unless a character is naturally quite psychic, visions should be rare, and it's typically best to limit them to situations where powerful external forces or psychic connections are involved. This could include, for example, situations where a powerful entity like a warlock patron wants to share information with an individual, locations where there's a lot of latent magic like the Feywild, or the death of a character that has a powerful connection with one or more individuals. Dreams are far more common than visions, and for a character to dream, they need to be asleep, although they may still be conscious in that they're aware they're having a dream. Now we've cleared that up, let's set the scene. To deliver a satisfying dream or vision sequence, you'll need to set the scene. One thing you want to do is make sure your players know that their character is having a dream or vision. You can do this descriptively by making the sequence seem different to typical waking moments somehow, like I did at the beginning of the video. You can also make the sequence obviously surreal in other ways. In dreams and visions, anything is possible. Switching between locations, moving through walls or worlds, traversing hundreds of miles in a single moment. Your imagination is the limit. Or if you prefer a direct approach, you could just tell your players that they're having a dream or vision outright. If a player is dreaming and you let them know they are, you may want to let them explore their dreamscape further, or even give them some control over it. As a sometimes lucid dreamer, I'm well aware that the moment you realize you're dreaming is the moment you gain command of your dreamscape. Populate the scene. If you portray NPCs or other characters in dreams or visions, decide if they're actually part of the dream or vision, or if they're just portrayed in it. If other actors are part of a sequence, then decide if they're aware of that or not. This will help inform both how you run the dream or vision, and how characters may react later if questioned about it. Decide which players or characters should experience the dream or vision directly. This includes which players will be involved in the sequence, as well as which players will be around the table when you run it. Most of the dreams or visions that I run just involve a single player character, but you can run shared sequences with multiple player characters. I generally like to include other players around the table when I run a dream or vision because they're always fun, but in some situations this might not be appropriate. If there's any information shared in a dream or vision that a player may not want other players to know, make sure to keep it private and let the player decide what they want to share. I've run vision sequences for interactions between a player character and his fiend warlock patron. I keep these just between the player and myself for obvious reasons. If you have other players around the table and their characters are in the same location as the character that's having the dream or vision, you can add some flavour by describing what those characters see. Maybe a character having a vision has their eyes rolled into the top of their head, or maybe they're glazed over. If a character is having a nightmare, maybe they're tossing and turning in bed, screaming or sweating. Make an impact. Dreams and visions are often really emotional and really hit a nerve. Make sure to focus on this as you're running a dream or vision sequence and turn everything up to 11. Flavour how a character feels both during the sequence and when they're back in the normal waking world. Temperature, physical sensations and mood can be really powerful tools here. During a prophetic vision of impending doom, consider telling your players that they feel a heavy weight on them and hear a ringing tone in their ears that keeps getting louder. If a player character is having a nightmare, consider narrating how they wake up with a sweat, shaking, or feeling very cold or very hot when the dream ends. When to run dreams and visions. You can either run a dream or vision sequence during a session or between sessions. If lots of players are directly involved in a sequence, or you want players to witness a sequence even if they're not directly involved in it, including a dream or vision within a game can be fun and can offer a nice break from direct action within a session. If only 1 or 2 players are involved, or if you want to keep a sequence private, you may want to consider delivering the dream or vision between games instead. This is particularly convenient for dreams, as I find that sessions often end with the players taking a long rest. So how often should you run dreams and visions? I love using dreams often. They're versatile, fun, and I find that they have a great impact on the narrative. While you probably don't want to run dreams so much that half of your game is dream sequences, don't be afraid to use them, say, once every few sessions for each character if it makes sense to do so. As I mentioned earlier though, I save visions for particularly extreme scenarios or interactions with really powerful entities like a warlock's patron. Visions can be really impactful, so be careful not to overuse them. How to use dreams and visions. Want some more inspiration for how you can use dreams and visions? Here are a couple of other examples from my games. I love using dreams to expose events that the party wouldn't otherwise be aware of or foreshadow events. A player character in my campaign, Saul, had it in her backstory that she was on a quest to find her long-lost father. I decided that he'd been kidnapped by slavers, but I had a bit of a problem. The centerpiece of the campaign is a small frontier town. So small that everyone in the town knew each other and there were definitely no slavers living there. Since I'm running a sandbox campaign, I added a city some way away, which is where the slavers had kidnapped Saul's father. To introduce a quest line for Saul to save her father, I had the slavers travel through the town and stay in the local inn overnight, as they were scouting for their nefarious purposes. On the night that the slavers stayed in the inn, I ran a dream sequence for Saul. She had a nightmare where she saw a man in chains begging to be freed. She didn't recognize the man by his appearance because it was many years since she'd last seen him. But she did know that it was him, as you sometimes do in dreams. Details don't matter, but feelings do. I coloured the dream so everything was dark and ominous in grayscale. After seeing the man she knew to be her father begging to be freed, Saul saw 3 individuals in dark clothing and could feel that her father's fate was related to these shady individuals. I didn't show Saul's father actually being kidnapped because abstract often works a lot better than concrete in dreams. When Saul woke, she was sweating and feeling dread, and I made it clear that she remembered her dream and would be able to act on it. When the party were hanging around in the inn, their main base of operations, they overheard a couple of locals talking about the shady individuals that had stayed in the inn overnight and left early that morning. This was the first introduction to an exciting quest line, and you'll be pleased to know that Saul eventually rescued her father. After meeting his ancestral guardian, like in the dream that I narrate in this video, the player in my campaign decided to take a warlock level with an Ifrit patron for his character, Braum. I introduced Braum to his patron, and we roleplayed Braum and his patron making their pact within a vision. Braum had recently set a cabin occupied by a witch on fire, so Braum and his patron were already speaking the same language. In the vision, I took Braum back to see the cabin he'd set alight burning, but with one extra detail: a fiery red gem in the basement. Braum felt pulled towards the gem, and when he peered into it, he found himself transported into the Ifrit's palace, where slaves lined the throne room. The Ifrit sat upon her golden throne offered Braum a pact to lend him power in exchange for him completing a mission, finding the red gem he'd seen in his vision and returning it to her. I hope these examples give you some inspiration as to how you can use dreams and visions in your games. Have you used dreams or visions before, or do you have ideas of how to bring them to your games? I'd love to hear in the comments. Well, this has been a long recording session and I'm feeling a little sleepy. I hope I don't.
You probably have many questions. Where are you? And who am I? You are dreaming right now, and I have manifested my spirit to speak with you. I once lived in the village you call home. Like you, I was chosen to solve a great threat that befell our people. And like you, an ancestor offered their help when I needed it most, through the power of their spirit. You see, the universe operates in cycles, and the time of cataclysm is upon our village once again. Our people need a hero, and you are that hero. Call upon me when you need, and I shall heed your call. Travel to the northwest. Friends await you there. Go forth with haste. But before you leave, there's something important you must hear. Do a bro a favor and subscribe to the channel. And for more storytelling tips, check out these videos.